This conference will now be recorded.
Great. Thank you for doing that. Okay, today I'd like to introduce Monique Turner, who is an account executive at Ogilvy, right? I said that right, Monique? Ogilvy Public Relations, where she supports the Resilient Nation Partnership Network through FEMA's community engagement and risk communications venture. So Monique's interdisciplinary background helps her focus on inclusive planning and partnership that inspires communities, expand capacity, and help achieve equitable outcomes. So thanks, Monique, for joining us today. And let me share your presentation, and you can get started.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. And Meredith, thanks again for inviting me to speak today and present on the RNPN. We're excited. As Meredith said, I'm Monique Turner, and I work with the RNPN through FEMA's Community Engagement and Risk Communication Initiative. As I'm sure you all are aware, FEMA's mission as an agency is to support communities during, before, and after disaster. So while we recognize that each phase of disaster requires a unique level of support, I think it's important to note that this initiative and the RNPN is housed in FEMA's Risk Management Directorate. And so we focus primarily on pre-disaster mitigation. Next slide, please. So the RNPN was formed in 2015 as a way to cultivate relationships with some non-traditional organizations and bring new voices to the table that can help advance the resilience conversation. So to date, the RNPN consists of over 1,500 organizations, including academia, the private sector, nonprofits, and government agencies. We also work with other state, local, and tribal organizations within communities to create a united, or we are all united, I'm sorry, to create a more resilient nation. And so our mission is to inform, educate, and motivate communities to protect themselves from the loss of life, property, and prosperity as a result of natural hazard. Next slide. So the RNPN identifies that these priorities that essentially govern the work that we do. So the three priorities are promoting natural hazard mitigation and climate adaptation actions, advancing equitable resilience initiatives, and expanding capacity through partnerships. And then our website's listed here, and I can drop it in the chat a little later for anyone who wants to visit the website. Next slide, please. So some of the ways we make sure we're reaching our priorities are through our monthly newsletter, the Resilient Nation Roundup, where partners can submit content that highlight recent initiatives, news, upcoming events, and any updates they have, all centered on resilience. We also host monthly events called Resilience Exchanges, where partners come together to share knowledge and advance conversations around a particular area of natural hazard resilience. More recently, we began co-hosting these monthly events with partnering organizations. So this month, we discussed building equitable resilience through the perspectives of chief resilience officers. This event was co-hosted with the Pew Charitable Trust and Resilient Cities Network. Our featured speakers for this event included Ron Harris, who's the Chief Resilience Officer of Minneapolis, Crystal Reyes, who was the Chief Resilience Officer of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Eric Fossmeyer, who's the Chief of Staff and General Counsel for the South Carolina Office of Resilience. The discussion was moderated by Lorianne Farrell, who's the Regional Director of North America with the Resilient Cities Network, who was one of our co-hosts. And then for the month of August, we'll be hosting a resilience exchange on communicating resilience data to diverse audiences. So kind of translating how some of that science and some of the technical terms are broken down to, just the general public, anyone in the community who needs to understand their risk. And we're happy to be co-hosting that event with SCDRP. Um, In addition to the resilience exchanges, we also host quarterly events that we call ideation hours. These kicked off last summer as a way for participants to freely share ideas, foster connections, and pursue collaborative opportunities with other partnering networks in the organization. Um, so we always predetermine a topic. It's more meant to be more of a freestyle event and is open to everyone. We encourage participation at these events, and we really just want everyone to bring their best resilience ideas, outcomes, resources to the table so that we can all, share in success together. Ideation Power topics have included extreme heat, which we co-hosted the event with Arizona State University, the City of Phoenix, and the University of Arizona. We've also had ideation hours on rural resilience and defining adaptation. The last event I want to highlight is our annual forum, which takes place every October. This year, the forum I'll get into the forum for this year a little later, but this year we will be discussing alliances on inclusive resilience. And this is just a way to um, bring partners or bring organizations that are not just partners to the table to listen to a lot of perspectives and insights and reflections from different communities. Next slide, please. Okay, so a little bit more about the roundup. As I said, it's an opportunity to just highlight what is going on in the resilience sector. So we send out a call for content every month to our partners, and we feature any updates that they have, any upcoming events, new initiatives, resources, and so on. And then submissions are accepted via email to the email address on the screen. Also happy to share that in the chat if anyone is interested in sharing updates. Next slide, please. Okay, so resilience exchanges, um, as I said, are knowledge sharing. So these are more panel and setup. They're moderated discussions on a particular topic. Aside from the event that we just held this month, we've also included topics of seismic risk, resilient decision making, and equitable resilience. And on average, these events, we typically get about 250 attendees a month. We also typically feature a moderator and 3 panelists. So, next slide, please. And then just again, the ideation hours are more freestyle in nature. We invite all participants to come bring their best, ideas to the table and really just collaborate with each other versus listening to, experts on some of these topics just speak on some of the successes that they've had. So this is really meant to be a collaborative opportunity, and we really encourage that. Next slide, please. So after each event, we try to put out what we call insights and reflections. So insights and reflections capture the themes and key takeaways from each discussion, from each event. And then we also have the speakers from those events input some of their key takeaways from the event. So it's also a collaborative resource, and we share that out with our participants and the greater network. And then they're also available on the RNPN website, which again, I'll share with you all in the chat. Next slide, please. So the RNPN, like I said, hosts a forum every fall. In 2020, we started what we're calling the Building Alliances series. So the 2020 forum focused on alliances for equity. It was co-hosted with NOAA, and it was held every Wednesday in October for about 2 hours. We had 2,200 total viewers for that forum, and um, really just shared key perspectives from some partnering organizations. Past forum co-hosts included the National Building Museum, American Institute of Architects, the Pew Charitable Trust, and the World Bank. Videos from this forum are available on the RNPN website. Next slide, please. So following that forum, we recorded what are now the Building Alliances for Equitable Resilience audio stories. The audio stories came from the Building Alliances for Equitable Resilience resource, which again captured some of the key takeaways from the forum. It featured partner stories from some of our tribal partners, as well as other speakers who took the time to speak at the forum. The audio stories and the resource can be found on our website, and it was really just, it's really meant to help organizations figure out how to build equity into some of their resilience planning. Next slide, please. So then last year, the 2021 forum, we focused on alliances for climate action. We co-hosted this forum with NASA, which was again held every Wednesday in October. We had speakers from both the FEMA and NASA administrations, or the administrators for FEMA and NASA, I'm sorry. We had Gina McCarthy from the White House, and about 35 other speakers who came and gave their perspectives on topics such as financing climate action, climate migration, and how you move your cities and towns away from risk. And then again, these recordings can be found on the RNPN website. Next slide, please. So following the 2021 forum, we wanted to measure the impact. We are seeing growth from year to year, just in number of attendees and organizations that are joining the RNPN. And so we wanted to create this impact dashboard just to highlight some of that growth that we are seeing. So the 2021 forum, we had 3,250 viewers, which is up about 1,000 viewers from the 2020 forum. We totaled 2,600 registrants, and more than 900 organizations were represented as part of that forum. So from speakers and participants, we had over 900 organizations. And we recently released the Alliances for Climate Action resource, which I will talk about in a second. Next slide, please. So we released this co-created resource, which following the success of the Building Alliances for Equitable Resilience resource. This resource is meant to unify the voices of all the partners and speakers that spoke at the 2021 forum. This resource features some of those same insights and reflections, personal stories from some of our speakers, and it's really meant to be a resource that whole communities can use to advance and address climate action. Next slide, please. So as this handsome fellow on the screen, it's Bradley Dean. He is our partnerships lead at FEMA. So he really spearheads a lot of the work we do at the RNPN. So if you would like to join our distro list, you can email the FEMA-resilienation@fema.dhs.gov webpage, email address, I'm sorry. And again, I'll drop our webpage in the chat. And then Brad's personal email is also on the screen if anyone has any questions directly related to FEMA and their risk management directorate. So that concludes my presentation. I am open to accept any questions from the audience if Meredith, if you're okay with that.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks, Monique. Yes, we just wanted to hear from you all to see what you guys are doing. And it sounds like you are doing very similar things to SCDRP, but on a larger scale, right? On a national scale, where our partnership here is regional for the Southeast states and now the Caribbean nations and territories. So yes, if you want to come off of mute, or if you'd like to put a question in the chat for Monique, we can do that now.
Hey, good morning, Monique. This is Lindy Betzold with the NOAA Office for Coastal Management. I was just wanting to hear a little bit about how this national partnership is using the Building Alliances for Partnership document. And I know that you promoted it in the entire nation. And just kind of wondering a little bit about how the RNPN anticipates being able to work regionally with organizations like SCDRP? Do y'all have an idea of how that might evolve, or is that something you're working on?
That's a great question. Thank you. We are actually currently developing an evolution plan that will enable us to work with regional organizations. Again, this started as something at the national level, and because it is an opt-in, peer network, we really just thrive on the participation of our organizations. So right now, if regional organizations are interested in co-hosting an event, or have recent initiatives and news that they want to share, we are open to those things for our roundup. We are also open to co-hosting events that highlight specific hazards or risks or topics that you deem very important to your region. So right now, it's just kind of a raise your hand, and let's see how we can partner and kind of further that discussion.
Thank you. Very similar operational models here as well, as we thrive on the folks who engage in our partnership as well.
Great, thanks, Lindy. And Dwight has a question in the chat, which is actually very similar to a question I was going to ask about what your relationship with FEMA is. But Dwight says, are FEMA contractors represented on RNPN?
Some are. We don't like, I guess I don't want to say segregate, but we don't separate our subscribers, based on their employment status, like if they're a contractor, full-time employee, anything like that. So, but there are other organizations within FEMA that are represented in the RNPN. So it's not just the risk management directorate. There is not just contractors. It can be from the DHS, faith-based and neighborhood partnerships. We have a few of those employees on our as subscribers. So it's really just anyone who wants to opt into the network. But to answer your question, yes.
Great, thanks, Dwight. I'll ask a question while we wait on others maybe to type their questions in the chat. But Monique, can you tell us when your next annual event is? Is it, have you already had your 2022 event? Are you planning for 2023 now?
No, our 2022 forum will be in October. We're going to stick to the every Wednesday in October model. So every Wednesday it'll be from 1 to 3, and we will highlight just various topics on inclusive resilience. So, like how to build trust within communities, and resilient storytelling, just to kind of learn some lessons from communities who are, seeing progress in their resilience planning, or even hear stories of those communities who need help with resilience planning, so that, as a network, we can help pull together resources to get these communities assistance where they need it. So, again, for anyone who wants to subscribe to our distro list, I can drop that in the chat, but we will be announcing that forum in August. So
Okay,
coming in
awesome.
September.
Yes, if you would please drop that in the chat, that would be great. And that's something we will also try to feature in our newsletter as well. So it sounds extremely relevant and aligns with what a lot of our partners are doing, and things that we can work on with communication with these local communities. Another question that I'd like you to talk more about is if you could give us some examples of some of the top maybe organizations that are represented in RNPN.
Yes, absolutely. So being as though FEMA is a federal agency, I know a lot of participants think that we like skew heavily federal, which actually is not true. And that is something that I think we're very proud about. But we have about 6% federal government engagement, but we also have academic partners. As I stated, we just co-hosted an event with Arizona State and the University of Arizona. We've also have partners from Tulane University, George Washington University, Georgetown University. So, a big academic presence. We have about 12% state government participation. So we have representation from the state of Maryland, the state of Illinois, the state of North Carolina, South Carolina. Um, we really try to engage all 10 of FEMA's regions. We have about almost 30% private sector engagement, and that can be from consultants to, we have a few partners from Nike that we are trying to figure out how to advance some of their sustainability efforts, and support them in that mission. We also have representation from a lot of county and local governments, as well as tribal and territorial governments, and also associations and nonprofits. Some of our, I guess, more active members include the Union of Concerned Scientists. They submit a lot of content for our newsletter. We work a lot with NOAA, which is a federal agency, in some of their climate initiatives. So yeah, I believe a breakdown is on the website, but I'm happy to share that if anyone wants to see it specifically.
That is great. Thanks, Monique, so much. Any other questions from folks? I think overall that your network can serve as a really great model for us, for our partnership as well, and that we can maybe try to do some of the same kind of efforts that you all are doing, and as well as collaborate for future events and future work. For example, like in August, we're going to be co-hosting, as you mentioned, with RNPN for your August meeting. So everybody from SCDRP on this call, will send more information about that meeting in August. That SCDRP will be linking with RNPN on to co-host. And maybe just maybe like a final word, Monique, if you would, since we're giving everyone a little teaser on this meeting, can you talk a little bit about what that next meeting in August will be? What you guys are.
Yes. Sorry, not to cut you off. Sorry, Barry.
No.
So that meeting will be on August 31st. The RNPN typically holds events the last Wednesday of every month. So scheduled for August 31st at noon Eastern Time. We will be talking about communicating resilience and how to translate science data into practice. We are still, Meredith was kind enough to sit on our panel, so she will be one of our featured speakers, and we're really excited to hear her perspectives on this. And we're hoping to have a representative from Nike on that panel. So we're still confirming speakers, but as of now, we are looking to also have a speaker from the Environmental Defense Fund. So coordination is still ongoing, but we do have a meeting registration page up for that just gives, a highlight of the event, and I can drop that in the chat with all of our other resources.
Yes, that would be awesome. If you could drop that information, I think that's great. I don't see any other questions, Monique, so thank you so much for joining us today and telling us and updating everyone a little bit about your organization and what you guys do.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, of course, anytime. I am going to switch gears here and pull up my slides for some updates, partnership updates, which you may have all seen a lot of this in our newsletter, but I would like to tell you what's going on in person or on video, if you will. Next month, we will meet, I believe I didn't put the date on here, I apologize. I think it is on everybody's calendar, and of course, as always, we'll send out in our newsletter the date, but it is August 25th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And we will be hearing from Dr. Greg Winnell, who is the director of the Caribbean Green Technology Center at the University of the Virgin Islands. And he will be discussing resilience planning in the Virgin Islands, as well as some of the efforts that they are working on related to energy. Great, so those are all the updates from the partnership that I have, but now I would love to hear from you all, the reason that we get together each month, so we can connect and share what our organization is doing. And maybe there's some best practices or some research that's going on right now in your organization. And I'd love to hear from you all. If you could feel free to be brave, and you can take yourself off mute and off camera to share maybe what's happening in this discipline and disaster and community resilience in your organization. Maybe there's a webinar or seminar coming up that would be beneficial for others on this line to join. And of course, you can always put what's going on in your organization in the chat, and any kind of other resources. So I'll stop there and open it up. And I see Monique did put in the chat to register for the August Resilience Exchange, RNPN. And again, SCDRP will be co-hosting that event with them, which is super exciting, to give a lot of recognition and nationwide to SCDRP. I think it's a great opportunity for our partnership. So I hope you all can make that Resilience Exchange in August and share it with your colleagues, and we'll post this in our August newsletter.
If I may, Meredith, and I apologize, my camera is not currently working at the moment.
Nope.
Or else I would be on camera today. I just wanted to ensure that folks were aware of a lot of the Infrastructure and Jobs Act opportunities that are available right now. Through the Restoration Center, through the Marine Fisheries Service, there are restoration and land acquisition funding. There's a marine debris funding opportunity currently. If you are a partner to a coastal zone management program or near, there's also restoration and land acquisition funding available. Those deadlines are upon us. So I know at least one of those deadlines is today, tomorrow. And just wanted to ensure that folks are aware that those funding opportunities are on the streets. I'm sure that you've seen them in the in listservs that you belong to. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to help direct your questions to the right person.
Thank you, Lindy. And Lindy, if you want to put your email in the chat, just so folks can email you if they have any questions about that. Great. There was also another chat earlier. I apologize, I skipped over it, from Rick. Next week, August 2nd through the 5th, is the Florida Local Environmental Resource Agency's 2022 annual conference via Panama City Beach, Florida. And the link there for that conference and registration is posted in the chat. Thank you, Rick, for sharing that. Sounds like a great opportunity for our folks and our partners in Florida. Carrie, thank you. There's still an opportunity in the Southeast Climate Adaptation Science Center Symposium, which will be held in Gulf Shores, Alabama, September 19th through the 21st. So an opportunity for researchers and resource managers to learn from each other. That sounds great. Thanks, Carrie. If you have any questions, please direct that to Carrie. Carrie, one quick question here while I've got you, and you can put it in the chat, is will there be a virtual joining option as well?
Can you hear me? Meredith,
yes.
I'm not sure. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm on a headset. Just real quick, because it's probably shorter than typing. We are likely to live stream parts of it. It's not going to be a full-on hybrid conference. Yeah. So there should be some opportunities to hear at least what's happening. Okay, great.
And it looks like some of the symposium themes are changing southeastern landscapes, impacts on habitats, animals, and people, and adaptation challenges and successes. So it sounds like a great event. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Let's see, Donna. The USGS St. Petersburg Coastal Marine Science Center has recently published some user-friendly resources for Puerto Rico. Great, thank you for sharing. A website for all the natural hazards resource for Puerto Rico in Spanish and English. This is great. Thank you so much for sharing this. I think this will be something super interesting for us to put on our newsletter. And I love that it's got the connection with Puerto Rico here, which is super relevant to our partnership. And then also a geo-narrative story map on shoreline changes in Puerto Rico. Awesome. I'm excited to check both of those out. Thank you so much. And again, everything that you share, we have now, if you've got our July newsletter, you can scroll down to the bottom and we've added a resources section. So everything that's being shared today, we do put in our newsletter. So these links do not get lost and the information is not lost. Any other resources that folks would like to share? Or successes or lessons learned since we've spoken last? Great, Rick, thanks for putting another update in here. The final climate adaptation implementation plans for EPA's 10 regional offices and national program offices will be completed next month. So these plans provide guidance on how the agencies will continue to integrate climate adaptation into mission goals and objectives. Okay, great. Do we know, will they be released? They're going to be completed next month, Rick, but do we know when they will be released to the public?
Yeah, they're supposed to be released to the public at the beginning of the fiscal year, so that'll be in October.
Okay, great. Well, that's something we should definitely keep an eye on. It'd be super helpful to see those plans. Great, thank you. Maria Watt has posted a conference, Florida Resilience Conference. So for our folks in Florida or close by, this looks like a great event. It looks like some of the sessions will focus on beach management, agriculture, energy, infrastructure, gray, green, cyber, and transportation. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Maria.
Sure.
And Christian, maybe this has been shared previously. I'm not sure, but thank you for putting this in here. Enterprise Community Partners recently updated their site on climate safe housing, which is pretty user-friendly and informative. Awesome. No, I don't think I've been aware of that change or update, so I'm excited to look into this site a little bit more. I'm going to play with this as soon as I jump off this call, actually. Thank you for sharing. All right, anything else? Great, and here's more information from Monique, our guest speaker today, on their website and also their Building Alliances series. And as Monique said, a lot of their recordings from those forums are posted on their website. Great, and Carrie has said a little clarification on the symposium. The meeting is designed for in-person interactive participation, and registration is only for in-person participation. Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying, Carrie. That's great. Okay, well, with that, I hope everyone has a great weekend. You have 15 minutes back into your day, and I hope everyone has a great day, and we'll see you next month. Thank you. Take care.